Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought that I would review this little video that I found very particularly interesting. And this is going to be a video by the boxing channel known as Boxing Ego. And I think that this is a very interesting video to talk about, or at least a very interesting conversation. And I've actually been trying to talk about this within the past couple of weeks, but I just never could get around to it. But I'm finally going to be talking about it. And this conversation, of course, is going to be about one of the top prospects in all of boxing, Mr. Ryan Garcia. Now, Ryan Garcia, of course, competes at the 135-pound division. He competes overall at the lightweight division. But there has been some problems with getting Ryan Garcia, just like Gervonta Tank Davis, to really fight the creme de la creme overall of the 135-pound divisions, or really fight A-grade fighters to begin with. I don't think that Ryan Garcia has really ever fought an A-grade fighter throughout his career. Of course, the biggest win of his career to this day is that Luke Campbell win, which I believe happened all the way last year. I think it was January 5th or somewhere around there. It was somewhere around there. I'm pretty sure it was January 2021. But when it comes down to it, Oscar De La Hoya, I do think all in all has been very carefully trying to match up Ryan Garcia, because I think Oscar De La Hoya knows that he does have a very great asset on his hands. He has someone that is worth a lot of money, or could potentially be worth even more money later on down the line. But I think when he takes a look at Ryan Garcia, even though he does see someone that is very decently talented in terms of the athleticism, and he does have some sort of boxing skills. Of course, a lot of people, they will criticize Ryan Garcia because there's a lot of attention on him. And of course, a lot of people, when they take a look at him, they think that he's more hype than what he is substance. And I do get it. He's not someone, in my opinion, that is as talented as a Vasyl Lomachenko or Gervonta Tank Davis, or even as a Devin Haney. But at the end of the day, Ryan Garcia, when I do take a look at him, I do think that there is some sort of talent there. But I think that Oscar De La Hoya, all in all, when it comes down to it, he knows that he needs to protect him for the time being, or match him up very, very carefully. Basically, what would I compare it to when it comes down to it? Because if some of you, listen to my channel, listen to my comparisons, basically what it reminds me of is a baby lion cub or a baby tiger cub. And basically what Oscar De La Hoya is, he's that mother cat, he's that mother tiger or that mother lion cub when it comes down to it. One day they realize all in all that maybe they'd be able to take care of their own, and maybe all in all that they'll be very dangerous and that they'll be able to, scrounge for their own. But at this current moment in time, Ryan Garcia, you do have to match him up very, very carefully. Because if you just throw him to the wolves, or if you throw him to the hyenas, he's going to get eaten alive when it comes down to it. It just is what it is. Ryan Garcia, when you take a look at him, I do see some talent when it comes down to it. But he is a person that still someone has a very raw skill set, meaning what? That he is not fully prepared, in my opinion, for the creme de la creme. If you were to face someone like a Vasyl Lomachenko, or if you were to face someone like a Gervonta Tank Davis, or even a Devin Haney at this point in time, there's a very decent chance that Ryan Garcia, that basically not only would his career be ruined, and of course if his career is ruined, that means that De La Hoya loses a very, very decent asset later on down the line. So De La Hoya, what he's going to have to do, and he's in a very, very, very difficult position, because Ryan Garcia, he has to be someone matched up carefully at the current moment in time, but he is going to have to start stepping him up in terms of the fighters that he is going to fight. And it's difficult because Ryan Garcia, when it comes down to it, he does not 100% seem 100% interested in some of these fights. Of course, he has pulled out of multiple fights. Ryan Garcia, of course, at one point in time said that he was going to face Manny Pacquiao. I could have told you that that fight was never going to happen. Anyone with an ounce of common sense knew that that fight was not going to happen. And then, of course, Ryan Garcia said that he was going to take the Gervonta Tank Davis fight. I think that Oscar De La Hoya one day does eventually maybe want the Gervonta Tank Davis fight, but I think that he knows that that fight maybe cannot happen at the current moment in time. And I think that maybe even Floyd Mayweather Jr. is also interested in that fight as well, because I think he knows that that would be very good for both fighters' brand, especially for his fighter Gervonta Tank Davis. And I think perhaps that maybe is a big part of the reason why Floyd Mayweather Jr. has been protecting Gervonta Tank Davis, just like Oscar De La Hoya has been protecting Ryan Garcia. But Gervonta Tank Davis, at the end of the day, he's usually going to get more criticism. And some people may say, well, do you think that that's because he's a black fighter? It may be a part of that when it comes down to it. Sometimes there can be more pressure on the black fighters. But when it comes down to what I will say is this, because when people take a look at Gervonta Tank Davis, that is a dude that is already an apex predator. When I take a look at him, that is a dude that is already one of the best 135 pounders and one of the best boxers in the world. Right now, Ryan Garcia is not fully matured. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not even sure if he's fully matured mentally when it comes down to it. Now, some would say the same for Tank outside of the ring when it comes down to it. But at least when you take a look at Gervonta Tank Davis, he looks like he has all that, he looks like he's all that in a bag of chips. inside the boxing ring. The big question is about Ryan Garcia. Who is he potentially going to face next? How much longer can Oscar De La Hoya basically protect him? And what fight are they interested in next? Apparently, from what I keep hearing, there is a possibility that maybe Ryan Garcia versus Isaac Cruz could happen next. I'm going to be talking about it. Let's tune in.
Ryan Garcia acting like he still wants to fight Isaac Cruz. Now, after Oscar De La Hoya says Isaac Cruz's team turned down a very lucrative fight, Ryan Garcia is saying both guys have said yes. Very confusing. I'll try to make some sense of it in this video. Stay tuned. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Throw a like on the video. Let's get started. Now, I'll jump right into the content. Ryan Garcia's team, through his promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, former fighter, current promoter of Golden Boy, previously said this. Cue the clip. It is very unfortunate Isaac Pitbull Cruz' team has turned down a very lucrative offer, more money than he made with Tank Davis to fight Ryan Garcia, says Oscar De La Hoya. So that's previously what Oscar claimed. He claimed that Ryan Garcia was willing to fight against Isaac Pitbull Cruz, but it's unfortunate that a lucrative offer was turned down by Isaac Pitbull Cruz. This has since been rebutted by Sean Gibbons of Manny Pacquiao Promotions. I made a video about this. I'm just going to give you the cliff notes. You guys got to subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with what's going on in boxing. So Ryan called him a chihuahua. He said, I guess he was a chihuahua rather than his nickname of Pitbull. And then someone in the comment section says, get the F out of here. And they were flaming Ryan Garcia in the comment section. Sean Gibbons, Manny Pacquiao Promotions president, says, hey, Ryan Garcia, while Isaac Cruz may have a few concerns in his life, fighting you is not one of them. If you are serious about wanting to fight him and wanting this fight next, we are prepared to make you an offer with the purse bid that you deserve. So,
now, some people, I don't know, once again, they may have the opinion that Ryan Garcia is ducking Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Listen, I'm not going to say all in all that Oscar De La Hoya 100% made an offer to them. But the thing all in all that Sean Gibbons said to me in this opinion was a little bit fishy. Because what this means is that Isaac Pitbull Cruz, he does not seem necessarily interested in that Ryan Garcia fight next. I'm not necessarily going to say that he is afraid of Ryan Garcia. I'm not necessarily saying that he is avoiding or ducking Ryan Garcia. But what this does seem to be, at least with overall what I've seen, it does seem that Mr. Isaac Pitbull Cruz thinks that he's worth a little bit more than what he actually is. Because overall, to say to the point overall to where we're willing to offer you a deal to Ryan Garcia, who is the clear A side, in my opinion, because it's not like Mr. Isaac Pitbull Cruz is like a former champion like a Vasily Lomachenko. You're a person that is not as popular as Ryan Garcia. Now, of course, you were able to face Gervonta Tank Davis, but before overall people knew that you were at least a decent fighter, that pay-per-view tanked. So all in all, you have a little bit more star power on your side now, but if you think that this is going to be a 50-50 deal, or if you think that you're going to offer something to Ryan Garcia or Golden Boy Promotions about a Ryan Garcia fight, and basically, oh, well, if you want to fight with me, you're going to have to accept my stipulations, that ain't going to happen. It is what it is. So what I'll say is this. I'm not necessarily 100% sure if Oscar De La Hoya overall offered a deal to overall Sean Gibbons when it comes down to it, or Isaac Pitbull Cruz, but what I will say is this. Isaac Pitbull Cruz, all in all, does not sound like Ryan Garcia is on his mind. Am I saying all in all that, Ryan Garcia, am I saying that he has Isaac Pitbull Cruz shaking in his boots? No, but perhaps Isaac Pitbull Cruz, maybe he has broader things to think about. But I think that a Ryan Garcia fight, it will be very, very good for him. To be honest with you, I think that it will be very good for both of their careers. It would do a very, very good thing for their careers if either of them were able to pull off the win. I would personally favor Ryan Garcia, but you never know. Isaac Pitbull Cruz is a very ferocious fighter.
Please tell us to...
Now, saying that, I don't think that he's an A-grade fighter. But I'm not sure if Ryan Garcia is necessarily an A-grade fighter either.
Whom we should direct that offer. So, seemingly, after being accused of ducking, Isaac Cruz is not ducking, as I told you, because they're still trying to keep negotiations alive with Ryan Garcia. To which Ryan Garcia posted, I could care less if he's concerned or scared, right? Hold on. He said, I could care less if he's concerned or scared. You don't need to be scared to get knocked out. Just let's get this done. We both say yes, so it should be easy. End quote. Now this is looking crazy, and this is definitely back.
What I'll say is this, and ego. What I'll say is this. I don't always necessarily agree with his takes, but this is the take all in all that I certainly could understand. If he believes truly that Golden Boy Promotions is not serious about facing Isaac Pitbull Cruz, because of course, reputation is going to matter at the end of the day. I don't care what anyone says. Ryan Garcia has pulled out of more fights than, I mean, any other fighter that I've personally seen within the past couple of years. You were supposed to have a fight with Javier Fortuna. You didn't take the fight. You were supposed to have another fight, all in all, allegedly with Manny Pacquiao. You didn't take the fight. Now, I could have told anyone that fight was not going to happen. But Ryan Garcia, apparently he pulled out of fights because of panic attack issues. And, one just has to ask themselves at the end of the day, is Ryan Garcia really truly serious about this boxing ordeal? I remember when Anthony Joshua, all in all, when he was on top, and he still is one of the top boxers out there. But, of course, he is coming off of a dominant loss to Alexander Usyk, when it comes down to it. But at the end of the day, I remember a lot of people, I don't know, they're saying, well, is Anthony Joshua really serious, or is he just a bodybuilder, boxer wannabe? I think that Anthony Joshua, let me say this, I think with the contenders and the champions that he has beaten, I think that Anthony Joshua was always a hell of a lot more serious than what Ryan Garcia seems to be. And obviously I'm not the only one with this concern, because I'm not the only one that thinks this. Mr. Saul Canelo Alvarez also believes this as well. And he believes that maybe Ryan Garcia's mind is not fully matured and that he's not fully focused on the boxing game. And overall, to be in boxing, listen, I'm not usually one of these guys that says that you have to eat shit and breathe your job. But if you're going to be one of the most dominant athletes in the world, when it comes down to it, basically a conqueror within your sport, you really do have to eat shit and breathe that thing. It just is what it is.
Fire. At the end of the day, at the heart of it, this is a problem with Ryan Garcia.
Like if you hear overall Gisele Bundchen, who I believe is, how you pronounce her name, that one Brazilian model, who of course is Tom Brady's wife, what you'll say about Tom Brady is that I've never seen overall anyone love their job the way that my husband overall loves football. Basically, what does that mean? Tom Brady is so obsessed with the sport. It was the same thing that Conor McGregor used to say all in all about MMA when he was at the great point in his career. And then along the way, Conor McGregor lost his way. If you're going to be great in boxing, in my opinion, maybe you don't necessarily have to be obsessed with it, but you do have to have a great amount of interest in it. And there's going to be people in the ring, all in all, that are going to be looking to hurt you. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be people that not only looking to have that great meal overall and that great payday from you when it comes down to it, but they maybe overall did not come as, from great of beginnings as you. They did not have as much hype as you. They overall aren't the poster boy that you are. So Ryan Garcia, he's going to have to prove to me, in my opinion, within these next few years, that boxing is really meant for him in the first place.
And Golden Boy Promotions, because clearly they're not on the same page. In one vein, Oscar De La Hoya is trying to move past the Isaac Pitbull Cruz fight by posting this. It says, Isaac Cruz, congratulations on your fight with Tank. Golden Boy, we are ready to make you a great offer. Tell us who your promoter is. So he posted this on January 3rd, right? At 5:59 p.m., he says, tell us who your promoter is. We want to fight you. Ryan wants to fight you. January 3rd, keep that date in mind. And then Oscar De La Hoya, by January 6th, so 3 days later at 1:06, so not even 3 full days, like 2.5 days, De La Hoya's, which I played for you, he says it is very unfortunate Isaac Cruz's team has turned down a very lucrative offer, more than he made with Tank. So in an effort to make Isaac Cruz look like he's ducking, he's scared, De La Hoya is saying within 3 days, 2.5, 3 days, that Isaac Cruz don't want it, which has since been rebutted by Isaac Cruz's promoter, Sean Gibbons. And he's saying, right after these series of tweets...
Well, what I'll say is this. It looks bad on Ryan Garcia, or it's going to be hard for a lot of people to believe that Isaac Cruz is just straight up scared of Ryan Garcia, because Ryan Garcia, he's pulled out of so many fights. So at the end of the day, like I said, it's pretty much like the boy who cried wolf. After a certain amount of times, like I said, when you have a reputation, it's going to be hard to get past that. So I understand Ego's point.
It's from Ryan Garcia and Oscar De La Hoya. Hey, if you are serious about wanting this fight next, we are prepared to make you an offer. So how could Isaac Pitbull Cruz be a chihuahua, as Ryan Garcia declared, right? he's a Chihuahua, and Oscar is quick to try to move on and saying, hey, he turned it down. Oh, well, we're moving on, because they had no intentions at Golden Boy of making the fight. So whether Ryan Garcia truly, in his heart of all hearts,
it's possible. We'll see what happens. But like I said, it does not sound like the Isaac Cruz fight or that Sean Gibbons is super duper interested in the Ryan Garcia fight either. Like I said, just for you to say all in all to someone that is the A side, like I said, that would be like Terrence Bud Crawford saying, you know what, Errol Spence Jr., we're going to give you an offer that you cannot refuse. Now, don't get me wrong, some people may say, well, maybe he has a great offer, but at the end of the day, it's not the B side that is going to give them the offer. It's going to be the A side, because they're the ones overall that are basically in charge.
wants this fight, whatever. But at the end of the day, this is an L, and his team needs to get it together, because clearly they're not on the same page. In fact, this is what his team previously said earlier this year about Ryan fighting Isaac Cruz. And tell me if it sounds like they want to make the fight. This is President Eric Gomez speaking with DAZN reporter. Roll the clip.
Plan for Ryan Garcia in the first quarter of next year.
Comeback fight. Comeback fight. He's been out for over a year. He actually wants to fight Isaac Cruz.
Do you think that's a good idea for a guy with a broken hand?
No, no, I don't think. I don't.
The guy's got a head made out of steel.
I don't think so. But there's something I've also learned that sometimes fighters
is the perfect fight for Ryan Garcia next, in my opinion. If it's not the next fight that Ryan Garcia should take, then it's the fight after that. Maybe he should come back and get a tune-up fight. Maybe he should face someone, I don't know, maybe like a Jojo Diaz. And some people may even think that Jojo Diaz is a bit too much for him. I think that it would be a perfect fight. Listen, this is what I'm going to say about Ryan Garcia. Even though I have my doubts that he's 100% focused where he should be, Ryan Garcia is a very great physical talent. So I think that Ryan Garcia, at least physically, he's more talented than most of these fighters. The big question is, all in all, is he going to be able to up his skill set to the point to where he can beat some of these guys? And then, of course, if he beats Jojo Diaz and, that one dude, Isaac Pitbull Cruz, there's even going to be more pressure on him basically to get in the ring with the bigger opponents. Devin Haney, Vasyl Lomachenko, Gervonta Tank Davis, George Kambosos, etc. So we'll see where Mr. Ryan Garcia goes.
Something that we don't. And for whatever reason, he's just chomping at the bit, like you said. And he wants to fight that guy. I'd rather do a softer fight. So right now we're going and we're talking to him about potential opponents, but he'll be back either.
We're talking to him about potential opponents. I'd rather do a softer fight. Tells you everything you need to know about Golden Boy's real willingness to make the Isaac Pitbull Cruz fight. Sean Gibbons is...
We'll see about that, because I remember when Oscar De La Hoya, I remember when he had Saul Canelo Alvarez overall under his stable, and he said that he did not want Canelo Alvarez to face Araceli Lara. But Saul Canelo Alvarez was able to get that fight anyway, because he said that he wanted that fight next just to prove that he would beat Araceli Lara. And of course, that ended up being one of Canelo Alvarez's toughest fights. But of course, he was able to get the decision, whether you think it was controversial or not, but it is what it is. But like I said, we'll see, because even though, of course, Eagle wants to put a lot of this on Ryan Garcia, and I do get it at the end of the day, once again, because Ryan Garcia does have a reputation. But with what Sean Gibbons has said so far, Isaac Cruz on his side does not sound overly interested in taking this fight either. And I'm not necessarily saying that's because they're scared of Ryan Garcia, but I think that they may think that they're worth a little bit more than what they actually are. But we'll see what happens.
Trying to keep this alive and say, hey, if you are serious, Ryan Garcia, tell us who do we direct this offer to, and we'll get you paid what you deserve to make this fight.
Right, but the way that he said it, it didn't sound overly serious to me. Basically, first of all, if you're the B side, you don't basically say, we're going to make you an offer. You basically say, all in all, let's do negotiations.
With that, Oscar De La Hoya, within 3 days, that first of all, that's not even how negotiations work. So why would you, within 3 days, I just showed you, Oscar De La Hoya went from January 3rd at 5:59 p.m., he went from saying, hey, tell us who your promoter is. We want to make you an offer. January 3rd, I'm showing you this, 5:59. So you mean to tell me that Isaac Cruz is ducking within 3 days, and then you publicly, 2.5, 3 days later, you publicly post this and say, hey, basically, it's dead in the water, we're moving on. That shows me that Ryan's team, whether it's Ryan or Golden Boy, either way it looks bad for Ryan, because...
It could be very potentially true. I certainly get Mr. Boxing Ego's point. I get where he's coming from, and it could very well be that. It could be that. It could be that Oscar De La Hoya, maybe all in all, he was trying to make Isaac Pitbull Cruz look bad. Maybe he was. But the way that Sean Gibbons was talking, it did not sound like their next planned fight was going to be against that of a Ryan Garcia.
And Garcia's pulled out of recent fights or whatever, but they're not on the same page. And then furthermore, as I stated earlier in this video, Ryan is saying, hey, I could care less if Oscar or if Isak Cruz is concerned or scared. You don't need to be scared to get knocked out. Let's get this done. We both say yes, so it should be easy. This is my only advice to fighters like Ryan Garcia. This is why you have to watch who you sign to and who you're promoted by. And if you want to be your own man and you're not going to listen to your team and or follow the direction, you have to make sure you're in that position to really pull the strings, because it looks very bad that Ryan is telling us one thing and clearly another thing is happening. So it becomes a scapegoat or a blame game as to why these fights aren't happening. He's saying he wants Devin Haney. He's saying he wants to fight Gervonta.
Well, I can assure you, Ryan Garcia, he can talk all that shit all he wants to. He is not willing to get in the ring with Gervonta Tank Davis at the current moment in time. Do I think that he does want the Isak Pitbull Cruz fight? Actually, yes, I do. You know, when he talks about Isak Pitbull Cruz, I see some sort of interest there. When he talks about Gervonta Tank Davis, you can tell that all that shit is fluff. Like when he talks on the Mike Tyson radio and he says, oh, you better take this fight, or, you know, everyone's going to say that you're ducking, I'll knock you out in 2 rounds. When people talk like that shit, when it comes down to the point to where it's almost so unbelievable, and you're not a person that usually overall does something like that, like, you know, unless you're like a Conor McGregor or a Muhammad Ali overall in their, you know, sports when it comes down to it. All that shit is a bunch of fluff. All that basically was is a dog barking behind the fence. That's all that shit was. But when he talks about Isak Pitbull Cruz, I do believe that he is truly interested in that fight. The big question is, will Oscar De La Hoya let him take the fight? We'll see.
Davis, he'll knock him out in 2 rounds. He's saying he'll fight Isak Cruz and knock him out. He don't care if he's scared or concerned. But your team is not getting it done. So this sounds like some type of breakdown within your own faction. So somebody got to be lying, and it's on the Garcia team. Oscar is so quick to dismiss Isak Cruz and move along within 2-3 days saying, hey, he turned down the offer. What part of negotiations is that? If you truly want to fight somebody, wouldn't you send them an offer, even if they don't like the offer? You keep working with them, you know, to the point where, because we're in the month of January, they said in that clip I just played for you that Ryan Garcia is coming back March or April.
Plan for Ryan Garcia.
We're going and we're talking to him about potential opponents, but he'll be back either March or April.
So if he's not coming back until March or April, then there's still time to make the Isak Pitbull Cruz fight, which your team tried to make it look like Isak Cruz was ducking, but clearly he's not ducking if they're trying to extend an offer to you. And it's up to Golden Boy to hear them out and see what they're offering and see if it makes sense. So
we'll see about that. You know, I certainly get where Ego is coming from, and I think that he could be correct. Maybe Oscar De La Hoya, maybe all in all, he did not make a 100% correct offer. Maybe all in all, you know, he's trying to do certain tactics. But, you know, or maybe he's trying to avoid that next fight. Who the hell knows? I think that Ego maybe perhaps could be right. But what I will say is this. Isak Pitbull's Cruz team, they don't sound super interested in that fight either.
I told you this is a lot of talking and it's a lot of people's wires crossed. And either Eddie Reynoso or Golden Boy or Ryan's team, whoever, they're not on the same page. That's the bottom line. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Subscribe. I'm the best in the business. The future is now.
Oh, man. But anyways, I actually thought that this was a very decent video by Ego. Of course, Ego, he tends to be a little bit against that of a Ryan Garcia. Do I think that that maybe is a part of some racial things? Maybe, because like I said, we all know Ego, that he is a part of the pro-black cult member, that of New Media, and the LDBC. It is what it is. But when it comes down to it, Ego, I do think, makes a lot of sense in some of his videos, and I certainly get where he's coming from. But when it comes down to it, we'll see what happens with Mr. Ryan Garcia. In my opinion, Ryan Garcia and Oscar De La Hoya, I think all in all that actually would be a very decent move to face out of an Isak Pitbull Cruz, because I think that it's a winnable fight for Ryan Garcia. Now maybe you want him to take a tune-up fight first in the year. That may not be a bad idea. But then after that, it may behoove them to take that Isak Pitbull Cruz fight. That is if Mr. Isak Pitbull Cruz is interested in that fight. Because like I said, if he thinks he's going to go into stipulations or negotiations, and if he thinks that he is going to offer them something, or that all in all that he is the A side, he is very poorly mistaken. It is what it is, or sorely mistaken. But anyways, that's really about it for this video. But we'll see all in all what happens with this situation, and I'll talk to you all later.